the Honorable Chairperson and all members. My name is Peter Chisi, Director for Civil and Political Rights at the Malawi Human Rights Commission.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, I am Winston Mapira, Deputy Executive Secretary of the Malawi Human Rights Commission.
Morning, the Malawi Electoral Commission. Good morning, I'm Lawrence Maximian Lunguzi, I'm Legal Services Manager for the Malawi Electoral Commission.
Thank you very much. We also have got the various media houses here present covering these proceedings. And so thank you very much for those introductions. We have, as I said, we have 6 stakeholders invited here. And I know a Minister of Justice will have no submission. They are here as a technical, team, unless you want to make a submission. But I know Minister of Justice is here to act as a technical backup. But we may have submissions from the various 5 stakeholders. And so because a great number of you will at least give 10 minutes for each presentation, 10 minutes for each stakeholder to make a presentation. And so we'll actually start with the Malawi Electoral Commission. From there, we'll proceed to the other stakeholders in that order. But 10 minutes so that we're able to have every stakeholder make a submission to the committee. So over to you, Chair, Malawi Electoral Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and the entire committee for the opportunity to make presentations this morning on behalf of the Commission. Since the time is brief, I will also be very brief. For the Commission, there is a gap in the present Presidential, Parliamentary and Local Government Elections Act because of the amendment occasioned through the repeal of the old law. As we stand now, there is a gap in the law that leaves a category of staff from the Commission, including commissioners and permanent staff, presiding officers and polling station personnel who will be stationed or deployed to polling centers. We have ICT technicians, we have drivers. We also have state security from the Malawi Defense Force, the Malawi Police Service and other security agencies that will be deployed to provide security to polling stations. This is prior to the polling day, through to polling day and after polling, and also representatives of political parties and independent candidates who will be deployed to polling centers to allow for them to monitor the processes. Looking at the numbers, we have about 80,000 in total who stand to be disenfranchised from the categories that we have indicated. The proposed amendment is going to correct the legal gap and enable the Commission to authorize this category of voters to cast their ballots at the polling stations where they will be deployed. The amendment, as you also observe, Honorable Chairperson, outlines a clear application process that will be followed because we need to be accountable in terms of the numbers that will be granted a certificate of authorization to vote elsewhere. And this is not merely for operational convenience, it is a matter of protecting the constitutional rights of this category of voters who would otherwise stand to be disenfranchised because they've been deployed to deliver services at polling stations in the upcoming general election. Also, just to highlight that we are mindful of Section 67 of the Constitution, which mandates the Commission to allow category of voters to vote elsewhere. But upon thorough consideration by the Commission, this is going to create challenges on our part, and we think it is impractical to be implemented in this election. That is why we are not resorting to activate Section 67 of the Constitution to cater for that category of voters. So for the Commission, we urge the Commission to support this amendment, as it is essential to safeguard the voting rights of thousands of citizens who are actively servicing the nation and our democracy on polling day. I thank you for your attention, and we're available for answers and clarifications if need be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the Malawi Electoral Commission. All members, just take note. We'll ask questions after all the presentations that are actually are done. So just be taking notes on presentations. So next will be the Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think part of the background has already been shared by MEC, because that has been the basis for the letter that was issued to the head of state, which was dated 17th July 2025, and a number of officers were copied. The office of the Speaker, Leader of Opposition, Leader of Government in the House, as well as the MEC chairperson. The basis is, as MEC has presented, that we felt that the amendment to Section 74 had left out other categories, thereby depriving them of their right to vote, which included monitors of candidates as well as political parties. But of particular interest to us was the issue of observers, noting that MEC does accredit observers from NGOs, and we have already filed application for accreditation, which we believed would be affected if that particular provision is not amended. We are also cognizant of the fact that at the time that the registration process was being done, some students were in school and currently they are on holiday, which could also pose logistical challenges for them to exercise that right. At a time that we issued that letter, our projections were 50,000, but adding the students, the numbers, the new computation goes over 100,000, around 110,000, who are at the verge of having their right to vote being violated. Beyond those categories, we were also of the view that there could be other comparing circumstances beyond the control of a voter that might compel an individual to move away from a place where he had registered or transferred to. For example, in the case of bereavement, where one perhaps was registered in Longwe and by default finds himself in Blantyre, yet that particular person is a registered voter. How do we support such eventualities? So beyond merely adding on the categories which we totally subscribe to the submission by MEC, we would also propose that the provision should also include other comparing grounds beyond the control of a voter, taking into account the example that I'd given. So briefly from our submission, Chair, that is the context for our concern. We submit for the consideration of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum, for that presentation. Let's go now to Center for Human Rights Education, Advice and Assistance. CREA.
Yeah, good morning, Chair. My name is Victor Muhango. I'm representing CREA. Our organization mainly, we work hand in hand with the criminal justice system. And in this case, we are talking of the Malawi Prison Service, Court, and Police. But I think our concern and why we are here, we want to talk about the prisoners' right to vote. I think CISEC and also MEC have, in their presentation, they have also touched what we wanted to talk about. But just to mention that we have a number of prisoners who registered in prisons, and they were not allowed to get transfers. Because by the time they were ending the transfer, maybe some of them, they were having 2 or 3 days to go to be released out of prisons. They registered, but they will not vote in their constituencies because they never took transfers. And again, we also have some inmates who have just entered into the prison now, who are also eligible to vote, but they are not going to vote. So the concerns by other stakeholders, we are also sharing the same. I think we should look at prisoners like human beings as well, because we can have more than 10,000 people who are eligible to vote, but they will not vote. So as we are considering other stakeholders, you should also consider the prisons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CREA, for that brief presentation. We will now go to Malawi Human Rights Commission. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Just to begin by thanking your committee chairperson and honorable members and the entire parliament for bringing us all together, the various stakeholders, to discuss this very important matter as we head to September 16. Honorable Chair, the Malawi Human Rights Commission will be buttressing the points raised by the various stakeholders, especially, as you know, Honorable Chair, the Malawi Human Rights Commission represents various groups in terms of access to various human rights, especially in this particular case, their voting right. And therefore, Honorable Chair, I would like to invite our Executive Secretary, Ms. Habiba Osman, to make our presentation on the Malawi Human Rights behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and your committee. Again, as you have given us short time, I think I'll just be brief. But just to note, Honorable Chairperson and the committee, that while the bill represents a significant advancement, the Commission notes the critical commission which has been stressed by the previous speakers. The limited scope of the proposed amendment to Section 74 indeed falls short of fulfilling the constitutional guarantees under Section 41 of the Constitution, which upholds that every citizen's right to vote in elections and participate in government. And furthermore, it may be inconsistent with international electoral standards, including Article 25 of the International Civil and Political Rights, which provides that every citizen shall have the right and the opportunity without unreasonable restrictions to vote and take part in public affairs. So unlike Section 102 of the Principal Act, which recognizes the role of local NGOs and local personalities in observing elections, the proposed amendments under Section 74 do not provide a mechanism for these individuals, including journalists, prisoners, local NGOs, and others as mentioned, to vote outside the polling centers where they initially registered. For us, just as MEC has noted, we note that this disenfranchises key stakeholders who are integral to a free, fair, and transparent electoral process. Many of these individuals are deployed across various districts on polling day to fulfill constitutionally and internationally recognized monitoring functions. And so the Commission, in its submission, has made some recommendations. And the recommendations to Parliament, having considered the gaps exist in the proposed amendment, specifically seeks to exempt polling station staff. The proposed scope for us is narrow. However, we have noted that since the others have also made the same submissions along the same lines, the Commission respectfully recommends that there should be the immediate amendment of the bill, as well as the fact that MEC has already started the process of accreditation. And so we are really proposing that civil society organization, the Commission ourselves, accredited journalists and media personnel all should be included, incarcerated individuals, as Kreya has said, and also there's released inmates who have also registered while incarcerated but may have been released and relocated, but also essential services providers, including health workers, security personnel, electoral staff, and others deployed away, as well as internally mobile citizens and individuals who have relocated due to employment. With our submission, we are also finally submitting that there should be an expedited legislative process to ensure these amendments are enacted in time for the 2025 elections. The Commission is urging swift deliberation by the committee and others, and passage of the revised bill by Parliament, the immediate assent by the President, prompt gazetting and dissemination of the amended provision to facilitate voter awareness and timely operation by MEC. So with that, Honorable Chairperson, we do hope that the amendments will ensure that Malawi electoral rolls reflect the principles of inclusivity, fairness, and equal participation as guaranteed in the Constitution as well as international standards. And such reform would not only enhance compliance with constitutional and international standards, but would also strengthen public confidence in the democratic process and the legitimacy of the electoral outcomes. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Malawi Human Rights Commission, for that brief presentation. And finally, we have Ms. Malawi. Over to you, Ms. Malawi.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to also declare that I am a member of, I'm a Parliament member of staff from the Parliament Secretariat. So now I'm speaking as Ms. Malawi, Vice Chairperson. As journalists, we are aware that journalists play a vital role during the elections. We provide information on voter and civic education and current developments around the electoral process, including the challenges affecting the process and the need for relevant stakeholders to take timely action and intervention. So as the House convenes to consider a special amendment to the Presidential, Parliamentary and Local Government Act, otherwise also known as the electoral laws, to allow selected groups to vote out of station during the elections, the Media Institute of Southern Africa, Malawi chapter, MISA Malawi, believes that inclusion of journalists as a special group that needs recognition to vote out of station during the elections will facilitate free flow of information in line with local international instruments on media freedom and human rights more broadly. MISA Malawi already engaged the Malawi Electoral Commission on the same, and the journalists are submitting their names for accreditation. As MISA Malawi have a membership of over 800 members, and so journalists will be deployed to different constituencies and polling stations during elections, and therefore we believe that they require special recognition to cover and report on the electoral process. We therefore appeal to the committee to consider journalists as one of the special groups that needs mention and recognition in the electoral laws, as the Malawi Human Rights Commission has also already mentioned, as one way of facilitating free flow of information and strengthening our democratic dispensation. Thank you very much, Chair, and your committee members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Malawi, for that brief presentation. Honorable members, we have the submissions from 5 critical stakeholders around the table. And so I'll open the floor for questions, comments. And whenever you're asking a question or comment, you specify to which stakeholder you want that to be handled according to their presentations. And so the floor is open for questions. I see Mashingali Kwenu. I think that's the only hand I'm seeing. Okay, Mashingali Kwenu, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My questions are directed to the Malawi Electoral Commission. Initial comment is that the proposed amendments are important, and on the face of them, they appear innocuous. But I have several anxieties that I would like to have clarified. First and foremost is a technical question. Consider myself as an officer of the Malawi Defense Force. I come from Liwonde, deployed in Mzuzu, Moyale Barracks, and then deployed to observe elections in Karonga. I would like my member of parliament in Liwonde and also my councillor in Liwonde. But those papers will not be there in Karonga because it's only the presidential ballot paper that is universal. The councillor and member of parliament ballot papers are constituency specific. Now, because various organizations will be sending their observers or monitors to various parts of the country, how will you make sure that I am voting for the person I want to vote for in Karonga when probably the ballot paper for the member of parliament in Karonga is not available? That is my first anxiety. Secondly is the fact that we have had 6 general elections since 1994, the 7th one being the presidential rerun in 2020. What did we do about the situation that we are trying to address now? What did we do about the situation we are trying to address now? MEC has got both institutional memory as well as institutional experience. What did we do? And why are we calling an emergency meeting of parliament? Because by the very nature of this exercise of calling an emergency meeting of parliament, it must be something completely unforeseen, something sudden, something that we could not have foreseen. And therefore, for something so mundane that we should have foreseen a long time ago, to be bringing at this point in time raises serious concerns and suspicions as to what we are about to be doing. I'm saying this because the election day is a very confused day. People voting all over the place and moving all over the place, people observing and monitoring elections in places where they don't come from. So very difficult to know whether what is happening there is actually legitimate or not. How do I know that the people that are being fielded to go and register in the name of security agencies are indeed security agencies? If I'm a monitor for a particular candidate or particular party, how do I know that these people that are being fielded as security agencies are actually security agencies? And therefore, isn't there room, therefore, for this opportunity for people that are in various parts of the country where they don't come from? Isn't there the possibility of using this opportunity to introduce voters that should not be voting? Chair, you mentioned a very important word. You need to make sure that this is done accountably. How do we know that the numbers are what they are, especially when, if my information is right, access to the system has been denied. The audit of the system has been denied. So how can accountability be assured when people do not seem to have confidence in the system? The Constitution, the section that Madam you cited, I think it's section 67, does make provision for the Malawi Defense Force and the police. And the practice, as a matter of fact, although the section is badly drafted, there's need for an amendment, sir. But Solicitor General, section 67.3 has an error. There's a comma or and missing. The practice in the past is that these entities were voting prior, and you would establish a voting center at the MDF barracks or something like that, and they would vote prior to the rest of us, 2 days prior to the rest of us. For these entities, why don't you want to use the same methodology for the Malawi Defense Force and the police? I don't expect you to be deploying the prison services or whatever, but for these two entities, why don't we use the provision in the Constitution and allow them to vote a few days earlier as provided for in the Constitution? So, like I said, on the face of it, this is innocuous. This looks important, especially with so many organizations feeling inclined to support this. But I have anxieties that I have just mentioned. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Machingwa Kwenu, Mulanje West.
Thank you, Chair. Mine goes to Kreya. It seems these prisoners have so many rights that are being denied as we speak. Because I know that they are denied the right to food because they eat once in the prisons, but we are not making any noise to make sure that they eat like everyone else. The very same prisoners are also denied the right to, conjugal rights, if I can put it that way. Why? Yeah, it is a right. It is a right for someone to yes. What is so special about voting? Why don't we fight for those other rights? Thank you.
Thank you, Mulanje West. Mangwash Malombe, then we'll go to Chukwa West. I think that'll be the first round of the questions.
Chair, thank you very much for allowing people of Mangwash Malombe to have a word. My question goes to Malawi Electoral Commission about these amendments. I'm seeing that you're only talking about civil servants, police, armies, and all that. What about in Kalambazatu, those who are registered and they cannot walk from their houses to the voting center? What are you thinking about those in Kalamba? And secondly, like if I'm sick, I'll be hospitalized in Blantyre, and the day of voting, I'm feeling okay, now I want to go home. Now I want to vote because I casted my vote. Why you never include this category into voting? Because they have got right to vote. Second question goes to bill drafters. When you were drafting this bill, why you never think of all this? And you just stayed, you never think of that government one day will waste money as we are doing today, because we have got 40 days to vote, and when you were drafting this, you know that the civil servants will be deployed to other places. Why you never included those civil servants when you are drafting? My question is why you are not including the civil servants when drafting your bills, so that you can mix in zero, utilizing what we are doing today. We are wasting government money. And you saw that the president and the political parties, they have, would anaperega nominations out to the Malawi Electoral Commission and all the candidates. And you have stayed all that time without bringing this. So today, we have few days to go for elections. Why is it that? Thank you.
Thank you. Nyumba West.
Thank you very much, Chair. Apologies, I came late. My name is Susan Doss, Nyumba West. My question goes to the Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum. They raised an issue on students. You just mentioned that you have noted that the students will be at their maybe homes because schools will not be opened by that time. I remember in 2019, I think, when we were going for voting, the schools were still open. I think we just had that holiday. Have you ever maybe had an interaction with the Ministry of Education? Because we noted that the calendar that they have released clearly indicates that schools will be opened after 21st. Is there any deliberate plan maybe to adjust that calendar so that maybe the confusion which is there can be reduced? Because if we now start saying, oh, even we have to include students, we have to include this category of people, then maybe we may end up putting everyone saying, no, but let's just open it so that everyone can vote from where they are. So from my side, isn't it possible that the calendar can be adjusted to make sure that these 110,000 students that we are talking about are allowed to vote where they registered? Thank you very much.
Chukwawa Centro, you will come in the second round of questions. The stakeholders actually handle this. So we have questions to make, Korea, the Minister of Justice, and the Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum. So let's start with handle all your questions, and then we'll go to Claire.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and the committee members. I'll start with Machinga Likwenu. To first of all just agree with you, Honorable Machinga Likwenu, that indeed just to first of all agree with you, Machinga Likwenu, that if person X is deployed away from their constituency where they registered and they are deployed in another constituency, it means potentially they are not able to vote for the councillor and MP of choice, potentially, assuming they were going to vote for them in the first place. But when you look at the arrangements that we are making, we cannot cure that challenge as it is, because it would be difficult to say person X should first of all go to their constituency. So you gave the example of Liwonde. They go to Liwonde, Likwenu, for instance, and cast their vote for their MP and their councillor of choice. Then they go to Nkatabe, where they deployed, where they will cast their vote for the presidency, because it is a national vote. We can't cure all the challenges. We have to find a solution that somehow balances the tricky situation that we have. Ideally, every person should be able to vote at the place where they registered at, because in doing so, then they will be able to vote for the MP and councillor of choice and the presidential candidate of choice. But given the situation that we have, we need to put in place a solution that allows the commission to deploy officers to be able to service police polling stations in terms of police officers, MDF, and also our own polling staff who will be attending to different tasks. But at the bottom line is, I think we can all agree that we have a challenge that we cannot craft a cure or solution. In terms of what happened in previous elections, I'll speak about the 2019-2020 elections. If you look at the Presidential and Parliamentary Elections Act, which preceded the current act that we have, it had a specific provision in Section 75, subsection 2, which gave specific power to the Commission through authorized officers, presiding officers, who would be able to issue authority to vote elsewhere to individuals. And this allowed, for instance, polling staff to be able to vote at the place where the polling station where they have been deployed to. For some reason that I'm not immediately aware of, Honorable Machingali Kweno, that provision was not included in the current law. Perhaps we can have recourse to the Gazette to understand the reasoning behind the National Assembly in removing this provision. But as we sit today, we don't have that. That is why we are faced with the situation that we have now. There was a question from, I think it was Mangochi, as to, I know Minister of Justice will come in, but I also just wish to highlight that the Presidential, Parliamentary and Local Government Elections Act came into effect in 2023. I think perhaps it may be a bit too late for us to start pointing fingers at each other who did what, because I'm sure a finger could also be pointed in different directions, because we all bear responsibility as we sit around this table. This bill was passed, and here we are in 2025, we are faced with this situation. So perhaps we can place our premium on finding solutions that help us to ensure we are minimizing the implications, the negative implications of the amendment of Section 75, subsection 2, which was removed from the law for perhaps reasons that the National Assembly would be able to enlighten all of us. I also wish to agree with you that there are issues of trust on the credibility of the processes that underpin the current conversation. And this is something that the Commission is also aware of, has taken cognizance of, and we've had deliberations at length, because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that we have processes that all stakeholders trust. And that's why I underscored the importance of us having a transparent and accountable process in place to ensure that we are able to account for each and every ballot that is cast, so that there is trust in the outcomes of the election. And allow me, Honorable Chairperson, as I speak to that, to also allude to the fact that we need to ensure we are not opening the net too wide. On polling day, the Commission is going to allocate ballot papers, ideally in tandem with the voters' register. So as we speak now, we have a voters' register, which was initially and provisionally shared with stakeholders, including political parties at the verification stage, and which will also be shared during the polling day at each and every polling station. When you look at that voters register, it will show you, so for instance, let's take Mpungu polling station. It's going to show the total is maybe 2,400 hypothetically. So for now, as we speak, we have 2.4 registered voters at Mpungu. We are going to make provision for 2,400 voters, and we put a margin of, is it 3%, just to cover for eventualities. Now, if we're saying we're going to just open the scope for authority to vote elsewhere, it means we're not going to work with the 2.4 that everyone knows as we speak now. But when you look at the scope that is in the bill to which the Commission is agreeable to, we are going to issue authority to vote elsewhere prior to voting. So we're going to know, we're going to deploy 10 people, 10 officers, polling staff and security, for instance, 10 to Mpungu polling station. It means we're going to issue authority to vote elsewhere prior to polling day, and we're going to know we had 2.4 registered plus 10, then we'll be able to account for that process. But if we want to open it wide and say everyone can just show up at Mpungu polling station, we might have a challenge in reconciling the numbers in a manner that is going to be satisfactory to all the stakeholders, and I want to join that with the trust issues that you bring. That is why it will be problematic, I think, for us to extend the scope too wide to the elderly that we speak about, to those who are sick. Maybe someone is going to come and say, I've traveled to Blanda, allow me to vote at Chichiri even though I registered at Ntalile. If we open it too wide, then on our part as a commission, we also want to put it on record that it is going to bring challenges in terms of the perceptions, because we all know that the issue of trust is a paramount issue that we need to think about. Honorable Chairperson, I also wish to bring our attention to Section 73 of the current Presidential, Parliamentary and Local Government Elections Act. And if you allow me to read it, it's a short one. It says, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary in a contract of employment, an employer shall put in place such administrative arrangements as may be necessary to allow his or her employee to vote in an election. And I also want to bring to our attention the fact that polling day is a public holiday. So this also means that for employers, for the media and CSOs, there's also this provision that is already in the law that can be made use of in terms of deployment to ensure we're deploying people in places where they're registered at. This ought to go to the fact that we also need to have a process in place that is not going to cause us perception challenges later on. In terms of voting elsewhere, that also came from Machinga Likwenu. Indeed, the law provides for voting elsewhere, but in our reckoning as a commission, we thought that is going to bring us challenges. So for instance, we allow the MDF to vote 2 days prior because that is what is within the law. these are the very same people who will be tasked to provide security to our ballot papers. I don't know how it is going to go perception-wise. The same people who have voted, they are also looking after their own ballot papers. I am sure in our thinking that is going to create perception challenges, and we thought, let us not open that can of worms, because perhaps we can find other ways of dealing with the issue other than creating those challenges. So it's the same for the police and the MPF. Also, there's the issue of if they vote in advance, are we going to announce, are we going to count those ballots and announce them in advance? Perception issues again rise from there in our reckoning. So that is why we're saying it's going to create practical challenges that perhaps we can find other ways of dealing with. Mulanje West, in terms of the elderly, as I've indicated, Mangochi Malombe, I beg your pardon, is Mangochi Malombe. Mangochi Malombe, in terms of the elderly, as I've indicated, we can't open it too wide to say the elderly, allow them to vote wherever they are, or if someone is sick. But just for the information of the committee, Honorable Chairperson, in terms of our protocols, we have special arrangements in place. If an elderly person presents at the polling station, they go straight to cast their vote. They are not going to be made to queue. That extends to people with disabilities. For those with disabilities like visual impairment, we have tactile ballot papers that they'll be able to use if they're able to read Braille. For those with any other impairments, we have arrangements for them to be assisted as soon as they present at the polling station. But the bottom line is we cannot cater for each and every scenario that presents itself, then we're going to have chaos. For those who followed the elections in Namibia, there was a challenge with ballot papers running out because people were just casting votes anywhere they presented at, and we don't want to get to that situation. The other question was for Minister of was to CSF, I think, for Minister of Education. I'll stop there for now. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Crea. I think there is a question to Crea.
Yes, Honorable Chair. Yeah, just to respond to the question from Honorable Member from Mulanje West. Why should prisoners vote while there are some rights that are not respected? I think what is making prisoners to vote is hope. They are hoping that maybe one day they will elect a government that will be responsive and probably answer to their needs. But again, just to mention that we have been coming and meeting the Legal Affairs Committee for several times regarding the advancement of the rights of prisoners. Just to thank you, Honorable Chair, again, that recently have passed the Prison Act. The current act, the Prison Act that we were using was enacted in 1956, which means that I think we are progressing. I know that there are so many issues that we need to make sure that we handle them, but by and by, I think we are trying. But the right to vote is the beginning of all rights. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was also a question on going to Center for Human Rights Education, Advice and Assistance. The Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thanks to Honorable Dossi for the question. I think the issue here is really about managing the risks, because elections are emotive and unpredictable in terms of how they would unfold. So I think the Minister was trying to take great care to protect the students. Whether there could be a possibility of reopening area, that should be an administrative decision by government entities involved to explore that one. But I think from us, really, it has been about how best we can manage risks. As we all know that elections are unpredictable. So that would be the reason. Whether that could be a possibility, that would be way beyond our control. But perhaps administratively entities could explore that one. Although it may be late, because the circular was already issued on the subject matter. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much for those interventions and responses. We go into second round, and that will be the last round also. So there was the Chihuahua Central, and then I see a hand from Mangochi East. In that order, please.
Chair, thank you very much. Although I wanted to ask my question at that particular time because it was a supplementary from Machinga Lekwenu. Chair, to vote, it is someone's right. Whether you are a criminal, you are a thief, you are a killer, it is a right. Now, I just want to ask, the Solicitor General is here, why we are having these half-baked reforms. We just passed an act, a long-awaited act, which we passed last sitting of Parliament, the Prisons Act. And today again here we come and they say no, prisoners are being deprived from voting. I don't understand, Chair, because this is why there's one member who asked that why are we here again today when they would have done this long time ago. We keep on spending money, provide half-baked information, then come back to it again. For how long are we going to do this? That was just a concern, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, for giving the people of Mangochi East to ask a question. Chair, I have a question to ask our presenter, who is Madam Chair from MEC. In case I'm being misled or I did not understand very well on the voters issue. Suppose, Chair, on a polling station, there are people who registered on that polling station, and we all know that that polling station, a certain polling station has maybe 1,320. And today, we are discussing on an issue whereby some people will come and add on the same number. Is it possible that we might be told in advance the proposed figure of those people who might come, that we should know in advance? And at the same time, I wanted that we should do, how are we going to match or correspond with the additional ballot paper, yeah, addition. I understand that when ballot papers do come on a polling station, they also do add a certain portion in case there are officers, police officers, or other people from MEC are working on the same. How are we going to know that this is a right figure for that polling station?
Thank you.
Chair, sorry,
do you want to come again?
Just one question is to make, sorry. Madam Chairperson, I hear that the system of MEC on the polling day, it will shut down automatically at 4 p.m. If this is true, what will happen to those people who came to vote at 6 a.m. and because of other circumstances, they have been unable and the system has shut down? What will happen to those voters? Thank you.
Majinga, is that supplementary?
Brief ones. When I went to present my nomination papers, between the Smartmatic machine and the printer, the system died 3 times. Now, we have a situation here where someone will present themselves at a center where they did not register to vote. So the system must recognize him as a legitimate voter registered at a certain center in Malawi. And with the penchant for collapsing of this mathematic machine, is this day going to end well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think all those questions are going to make. So I hand over to Chair for make.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'll start with I think it is Makochi Central. Is it? East Makochi. I beg your pardon again. In terms of the proposed figures, we cannot give you immediately now as to who is going to be deployed to what centers. You would have observed actually presiding officers are being recruited as we speak. But as I indicated earlier, the arrangement is that should this bill pass and the Commission has the mandate to issue authority to vote elsewhere, the plan is that we're going to do that prior to polling day. So because if it's polling staff and security staff, then we'll be in control of that information and we'll be able to deploy prior to polling day and we'll know how many people are being deployed to Mpungu polling station, for instance, over and above those who are registered. And we will have a paper trail in terms of accountability of how many people, in terms of extra people, have been added to a given polling station, so that at the end of the day, when we're doing a record of the proceedings, we'll be able to show the initial registered number of voters was this much, so much issued with the authority to vote elsewhere. That is why the total number of ballot papers at this station was so much, with a contingency of 3%, valid votes so much, so and so. Chikwawa Central, there were supplementary questions. Number one, just to clarify, Honorable Chikwawa Central, allow me to call that fake news. Because number one, voting is manual. We are voting manually using ballot papers. Every person who is going to be on the queue at 4 p.m. is going to be allowed to vote. Even if we have 100 people on the queue by 4 p.m., all those 100 people are going to be allowed to vote. And the station is going to close when the last person who was on the queue by 4 p.m. has voted. What is going to happen is at 4 p.m. we're going to have a make official stand at the end of the queue to show that this was the last person who was on the queue by 4 p.m. So as long as you present yourself at our polling station by 4 p.m., you're going to be allowed to vote. Machinga Likweno, I cannot respond to the allegation that the machines were and let me call them the election management device. Smartmatic remains the company that provides that supplied the devices, but let's call them EMDs so that we all move on the same page. But as I've indicated, voting is manual, and every person who presents is going to be able to cast their vote using a ballot paper. Counting is manual, and all the results are going to be processed manually at a polling station and pasted on the wall for everyone to see. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair.
Thank you so much, Chair. I came in late. My name is Agnes Nkusankoma, MP for Change South. Chair, I have a question to make. I just want to know why this time around you have decided to recruit, to take presiding officers through recruitment and not use the usual way, which we used to normally know that Amakanda's opposite. And why recruitment this time around? To me, I feel like it has just brought another chaos, because I don't know whether it was just an exaggeration, which I saw yesterday on social media, wanting to be recruited to do the interviews. So I want to know why this time around you have decided to recruit and not use the usual way. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
That's the very last question. And although it's not related to the bill, but anyway, I'll hand over to the Chair of MEG.
Thank you very much, Chair and Nchinji South. We want to have a credible process, and we want to have competent people handle your elections so that we are able to deliver to the people of Malawi. We should not just say credible elections on paper. They should be credible elections. And in order to deliver that, we need to have competent people. That is why we need to have recruitment. And to the best of my knowledge, even in 2019,
yes, we did.
2020,
we did that.
The same process was followed as to for the FPE, for the fresh presidential elections. There was a recruitment done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Mangochi East. Which question are you supplementing? I give you 1 minute.
What Honorable Nkusankoma has just asked, I understand the way our MEC Chair has responded. If I may ask, does that mean that the teachers we have in Malawi are not competent? Yes.
Okay, that's your supplementary question. Mangwash, remember you want to supplement?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say a few words regarding the closing time, 4 p.m. Madam Chair, please advise your officers in all the districts in Malawi to give us Utenga Wayenera. Because this issue of saying the system will be automatically closed by 4 p.m. and whoever will not be voted by that time, by 4 p.m., they would be azabwezedwa. That words is a So that is why we want your officers to be told zeni. Otherwise, your words to say 4 p.m., someone who will be there by 4 p.m. will be the last one. Kayakuzakala to 300, 500, they will be allowed to vote up to 7 p.m. That's what you have said. So we wanted that same message to go broadly. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. First of all, I wish to be recorded correctly
a meeting there, please. Can we have one meeting? Order there, please.
Thank you, Chair. I thought I should pause so that the Honorable who asked the question could follow what I'm saying. I did not say, and I wish to be quoted correctly, I did not say our teachers are not competent. That is not what I said. It would be a very grave statement to come from me in that manner. That is not what I meant, and that is not what I said. What I said is we want to have competent people to handle the elections. And for us to assess the ability to handle the elections, we need to have a recruitment process. That is what I have said. We have had experiences before where matters did not go the way they were supposed to go. So we keep improving our experiences so that we ensure we deliver to the people of Malawi credible elections. For the messaging, I will also emphasize that if you are on the queue at 4 p.m., you are going to be able to vote. And that is the messaging that MEC is disseminating through our civic and voter education assistance in the constituencies. But also if you are following our messaging on the TV, on radios, that is the messaging that we have been giving for quite a number of months or weeks now. We will continue to do that. And I'm going to ask you also, Honorable Member, that when you're conducting your campaign, you are also going to share the same message. When you're teaching and empowering your constituencies, I'm sure you're going to help us to pass the same message. If you're on the queue at 4 p.m., you're going to vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, and you all the stakeholders are on the table. Yes, do you want to speak?
Chair, I thought there was a question that was directed to Minister of Justice by, I think, Chikwawa East, as well as Chikwawa Central, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the question was basically asking Minister of Justice that why are we here and why were all these issues not captured in the law, to the extent that we are being accused of bringing half-baked law. Honorable Chair, just wanted to say that as Minister of Justice, we do draft based on instructions that have been presented to us. Some of the instructions are based on policy matters, some of the instructions are based on operational matters. This was the instruction that we got, and if you look at the issues that we are discussing here, most of them are operational issues. At that time, this issue was discussed, and it was a decision that was made that probably if we want credible elections, we may not need this section because of the issues, the challenges that have been raised by the chair. If you look at what the chair has presented, he has mentioned quite a number of challenges that this issue can bring with regard to credible elections. And those issues also raised that time. And it was decided that this provision must be removed. But things do change, and here we are. Maybe we are wiser, or we become wiser, and we think maybe that was not a correct decision. That probably maybe we need to provide certain category, to allow certain category of people to be allowed to vote at a center that they did not register. But I wanted to repeat, Chair, that this is an exception to the rule. The rule is that people must register, must vote at a place that they registered. That's the rule. So we are now providing an exception. We must be very careful not making the exception becoming a rule. And then we will not manage the elections. We need these elections to be manageable. We need these elections to be credible. And we need this election
to be seen to be credible by reasonable people. That's perception. And perception is very, very critical in an electoral process. Mind you, an election is not an event. It is a process. And the legitimacy of an election is in the process itself. So we need to make sure that while we are looking at all these challenges, all these exceptions, but that must be at the back of our minds. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Solicitor General. I actually deliberately omitted you. I didn't want you to respond because I was reminded by the Secretary here that there is a question to the Minister of Justice. I said, no, that was handled by the MEC chair. So that's why it wasn't an omission. I deliberately not wanted you to speak, but it's okay, you have spoken. But that was handled by the MEC chair at a certain point when she was making her presentation. Yeah, on the same, just a comment from the chair is we have a submission from Mr. Malawi who also want their journalists, wherever they are deployed, to cast their vote. As a committee, we are basically gathering information from you, stakeholders, who are concerned about this amendment. We would like to hear, although she mentioned in past debate from the MEC chair, suppose the committee says, okay, let's include this in the bill. Do you have a capacity to handle that? If we say all the journalists to actually vote to wherever they are deployed, do you have a capacity to do that? It's a supposition. Or as you do accreditation, will you put a system in place as you accredit that okay, we'll send the journalist to Karonga, this one to Sanj. Just want to hear from the Malawi Commission if there is that capacity to handle that, just on the MISA side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Whilst the Commission understands the predicament that may arise with the journalists, the Commission does not have capacity because we only accredit journalists. We do not handle their deployment. That is done by their own media houses. They are the ones who remain in charge of who is deployed where. The Commission will just accredit them for them to be able to participate in the processes and observe and monitor the processes in our different polling stations. If that were to happen, that is the challenge that I raised, Honorable Chairperson, that we will not be able to provide an account of who has been has voted where, because, like I've indicated, in terms of our arrangements, we're going to have prior deployment and prior authority to vote elsewhere issued. That way we are able to account for who has been deployed where, because we're in control of the deployment. For this one, it will be beyond our scope, and just to emphasize the issues that I raised at the beginning, that there are challenges that will be created in terms of the perceptions if we can't account for who voted elsewhere in terms of that manner. Thank you.
Is that coming from the Malawi Human Rights Commission? Okay, I give you 1 minute.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. As you noted from our submission at the Malawi Human Rights Commission, we included the media, and I also speak as the former chairperson for the Media Institute of Southern Africa. From the past experience, Honorable Chair, in 2019 and 2020, the first presidential election, the media was tasked to provide a list of deployment for journalists in various constituencies. And from that, the Malawi Electoral Commission was able to accredit journalists to be able to vote to where they have been deployed. And therefore, Honorable Chair, the Malawi Human Rights would want to support MISA in terms of appealing that there should be that provision as well, and that the media organizations should be tasked
to provide that particular list to Malawi Electoral Commission, and that the Malawi Electoral Commission can process that accreditation and still allow journalists to vote where they are deployed. Thank you.
Honorables, I thought we closed the questions. No, I said the last question was from the Vice Chair. I said this last question. Okay, 1 minute for Chikwawa West, 1 minute for Mulanje West, and this should be the last.
You know, the last people should always come from the West. You know that.
Thank you very much, Chair, for granting me this opportunity. My supplementary comes in because of the response from the MEC Chair. She said allocation of the media personnel will be done by their institutions. Yes. So, just to agree with what Teresa has said, that to me, I thought maybe once that you have accredited them and then the list has come, you should be able to say, okay, you have decided to put this report at this center, then we are okay, he or she can vote at that center. Because it's the same as the policemen. You'll be able to allocate those policemen. Say someone who come from Lilongwe, you are allocating that police person to Chikwawa. And then you are saying, okay, you can go to Chikwawa and you'll be able to vote. But this reporter, you already have a schedule of what has come from their employer, and then you're saying, no, you cannot be given the liberty to vote where you're going. I think maybe that one might not be, to me, I feel like maybe it's like we are not giving them the chance to also have their right to vote at that place. So I'll agree with what Ms. has also said, and even Teresa, at least to allow them vote where they would work, because it won't make sense, because the reporter, she's from Blantyre, and then you say, okay, you have to be in Blantyre. We want coverage for the whole country. We want to also learn from what is happening in the other areas. So, yeah, I think I agree with what Teresa said as well. Thank you.
Chair, thank you so much.
You go West, you were out of order because you're not supposed to agree. West.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm wondering as to why are we here, because according to what Misa is presenting here, these people were allowed to vote in the previous elections. Then why should we not allow them to vote this time round? Because in the first place, we were not supposed to be making these amendments because the arrangement was already there. Certain categories of people were allowed to vote without this amendment. So why are we amending the law? Just to exclude those who were able to vote then and include another category of people? What is it that we are trying to do?
You are referring to the law that was repealed, but we are amending the current law. That's what we are doing here. So it's in order, it's okay. It's okay. The law that was repealed had the provision, but this current law does not have that provision. And that's why we are here trying to amend the current law. Am I seeing a hand? Yes.
Yes, Chair. Supplementary from CSEF, Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum. I've been raising for some minutes, but it's to do with the same submission that Misa had made, because I had wanted to stress on the media as well as CSO monitors. We four observers, we fall in the same scenario and category. And our submission and thought was, as previous elections, would submit names in advance. And the list which MEC Chair has put it to say they will send an advance top-up list, it also include media and the observers from CSOs. So locking us out will also disadvantage us from exercising this right. Hence, we wanted simply to appeal to the committee to say, much as it has that oversight, it should not be limited to maybe the submission and capacity that MEC has. But we believe working together, we can help them manage this development. So it was an honest appeal to the committee to say you should also allow CSO observers to exercise this right. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's basically, as I said, the committee is basically gathering information from you, the various stakeholders, so that we're able to make an informed decision as we present the report in the chamber tomorrow. And so as I hear from the table, it's like the issue is about deployment and submission of this the said list to make. Because Meg was saying they can't because they are not the ones to deploy. They are only accrediting but not deploying the members of staff of various other institutions, observers and the journalists and all that. So it's the previous law was actually saying the media house should submit the names to make for actually noting, so they're able to deploy. I think that will take note. All our members, we think we have now no more questions. You have a question, Alex?
Can we break for 5 minutes, please? Please.
No, we are winding up. No.
Let's check. I'm going to break.
No, we remain here. Our bit. Yeah. Yeah. No, we remain. We can't break it. We are finished. All our members, we are coming to the close of our meeting. As the other stakeholders will be going out, all our members will remain now for finalizing of the issues. So let me appreciate and thank you very much, Malawi Electoral Commission, Minister of Justice, the Civil Society Elections Integrity Forum, Center for Human Rights Education, Advice and Assistance, the Malawi Human Rights Commission, and the MISA Malawi, the media. Thank you very much for availing yourself to this very, very important engagement with the Legal Affairs Committee on a very important amendment bill that is critical to the credibility of our elections and to make sure that the right to vote for every citizen of Malawi is upheld. And so this was a very important meeting, and we have heard from the various stakeholders, and as a committee we'll look at those submissions and make decisions and report them to the chamber tomorrow as the parliament convenes to look at this amendment. We really appreciate your contribution and your submission, and be assured that your committee will do the right things as based on the information presented. Otherwise, do we have tea? Some bread. I'm told that tea is not ready, so but it will be ready in a few minutes. Whosoever wish to wait for the tea, you are welcome. But otherwise, we can now allow all you other stakeholders to leave and remain with all the members of parliament. Thank you very much. At your pleasure, may take leave.